Hello, my fellow extraordinary Americans. My name is Cosmos Dar, and this is Extraordinary America. What is Extraordinary America? Well, you see, America has always been about freedom, opportunity, and the pursuit of happiness. However, most Americans are not free when it comes to the financial front. Most Americans are suffering from financial slavery due to loss of jobs, stagnant wages, inflation, and debt. Wealth and income inequality is the norm now, and the middle class has all but disappeared. So Extraordinary America is about the abolition of financial slavery. It is about the financial freedom of the 99%. It is about the nation of immigrants and the descendant of immigrants restoring the extraordinary within themselves and setting themselves free. The path to financial freedom is through financial education. It is through becoming entrepreneurs and investors on the light side. In this podcast, I interview fellow Americans who fought against the odds. Many of them came from humble beginnings to see how they did it. It is my hope through these interviews that the extraordinary within you shall awaken and that you will abolish financial slavery from your life and realize the American dream. Once again, welcome to Extraordinary America. Welcome back to the show, my fellow extraordinary Americans. For today's guest, we have Matt Russell. Matt is a subject matter expert, coach, speaker, entrepreneur, and investor focused on overcoming barriers to implementing time savings for clients. He is the CEO and chairman of the board for ProCents, where he and other experts help increase profitability through increased buying power. Their manufacturers and members work symbiotically to provide the most current and complete lighting solutions in the industry. As founder at Arcor, he teaches other professionals and organizations how to enhance their business success. His experience includes over 25 years in sales leadership and development, 15 years in real estate and energy efficiency sales, and 20 years as an entrepreneur. Over the last decade, he has provided guidance to aid in the efficiency decisions that have saved more than $1 billion. Some of Matt's clients have included Disney, SeaWorld Orlando, BMW, Universal, Porsche, Dollar General, FedEx, UPS, Library of Congress, and Home Depot. Matt is what I would call an extraordinary American, and I'm glad to have him on the show. Matt, are you there?
I'm here.
Matt, thank you so much for taking the time to do the podcast with me. I'm really honored to have you on the show. And I know that you are an entrepreneur, you're an investor, you're a coach. Can you tell me and the audience a little bit more about you yourself and your background and how you got started?
Yeah, for me, my background started with looking up to my dad. My dad was a licensed electrician, worked for General Motors for many years, and then looked to become his own boss. And he sought out to start his own electrical business. And I saw some of the trials and tribulations, but also successes he had. But what I noticed in that entrepreneurial spirit was being others focused. It's hard to be an entrepreneur if you're, in my opinion, if you're not others focused, because if you become self-centered, you kind of lose sight of what you're doing. But that's kind of how it started for me and what gave me that spark.
So Matt, how long have you been in the industry for?
So I've been in the electrical or energy space for a little over 20 years now. It started where I was just working in a lighting showroom, but I was more drawn to the engineering side of it and the design aspect of it. Not the decorative side, but how to make complex solutions more simplistic. And then having a network of people and suppliers and vendors I could reach out to. And that just helped fuel that spark and help put me on this path that we're at today.
So Matt, that's pretty interesting because you're saying that, but like, what is like your overall, how did your overall vision evolve from like the beginning at the inception point when you decided to become an entrepreneur in the lighting business to like where it is now? How did you go about doing all of that?
Well, it was a multi-year process. I'd love to say it happened, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, where it just success happened, but it was a gradual grind of, working through the process of figuring out what my why statement was and who I was and what values I could bring to other people and how I could leverage that to being something that truly brought me joy. So over the years, I've always loved being a solutions provider and working for a variety of different companies. I was always somewhat capsulated in their solution. I couldn't do a full blown solution. So that led me to start my own company and start doing other things outside of that, not to create more competition, but to create a more fluid or holistic approach and values for those that are people that are reaching out to me and entrusting me. Because I have at my core a strong belief that if someone entrusts me with anything, that I should always put my best foot forward. And that's what really sparked and made me create both ProCents and RCore.
That's interesting that you talk about others focused and like like being solutions oriented. A lot of people, they when I notice like in business, a lot of people, they think about what they would want, like, and then they go about creating a product or service. But actually, like you have well, like we realize over time that a lot of the times our clients want something completely different from our conception of what they want. So
Mm-hmm.
like this thing of being others focused is a necessary key to its business, at least in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, in 2019, when I launched ProCents, and it became its own entity, registered with the state, having its own tax ID number, it started out as a buying group. And then it's made a slight pivot. And then even earlier this year, we even changed from being a buying group because I listened to those that I was serving. And they said, hey, we like what you're doing, but we're having a hard time with the fee structures that we had in place. But to be able to grow, I was like, are they criticizing me or the product? No, they're criticizing in a way that allows me to expand outside, because I was honestly creating a wall around what I was doing. But in doing it as an event and creating a space where I'm looking to build bridges between silos, it allows me to reach more people and create more value for more people throughout the environment that I serve. So some people would have taken that and said, oh, woe is me. But, it was hard to hear. But I look at it now and I go, this is probably one of the best decisions I've made. And there might be another iteration to come about, but I don't look at it as a stumbling block. I look at it as a stepping stone of how I can get better and provide better solutions for those that I'm really, honestly, of service to.
So it's interesting you say like when you were talking about stepping stone, because a lot of people when they have like setbacks, they basically just give up or they get a negative thought patterns about it. But from what you're telling me, you look at the world in a different way. And that's something that I want the audience to know, is that you have to look at setbacks as opportunities for growth. And that's something that I noticed in you, Matt, is that you look at different things, you look at the world in a different way. And I appreciate that about you.
Yeah. Well, I think my view was really, it was about a 4 or 5 years of trials and tribulation as a youth. It started about 11 years old. Little background. I've always lived in the town that I currently live in. But my parents, we had to file bankruptcy. My mom had cancer and my dad had to fold up shop. So for about 4.5 years, we moved a lot. I was in several different schools, and at 11 years old, as a young man, or trying to become or figure out what type of man you want to be, there's a lot of questions and things like that there. But I was, living on my grandmother's couch, staying with friends. We always had a house. We always had clothes on. We always had people that loved us. But my dad showed me, again, being my hero, that, you can't let life dictate your circumstances. You have to overcome your circumstances and keep moving forward, because there are people that are dependent upon you. And if you sit and just wallow in your own self-pity, those that are reliant upon you, no matter what it is, whether you've got children or parents that you're caring for, you're letting them down. Not to mention your friends or family or people that you service within a community of work, you have to, pick yourself up and go about that. And I think that's what allowed me to really pivot and change my mindset. Now, I'm not going to sit here and blow smoke up anybody's tail and say this has been it's rainbow and sunshines every single day. But it is one of those things that I constantly have to remind myself that there are bigger problems that we're all trying to face on a daily basis, but if you can be positive and try to put your best foot forward, even though that you may not be feeling it, you can inspire others. You can be better for other people. And that's what we're all trying to do. We're all trying to leave a legacy. But I want to leave a legacy of kindness and outpouring of other people that help other people ascend the mountain of a level that they want to achieve. Now, I may go with them on the entire journey, but we may depart at certain levels of that journey, but at least I get to say I was a cliff note for them, or they were a part of my journey, which is something that's great to have, because no one that is ultra successful has ever done anything by themselves. They've always had a team around them that help, guide and inspire them. And I'm looking at that in my own journey.
Matt, I that was so profound and deep. Like I love it, And then one of the things that you mentioned was that you should never let life dictate your circumstance. And yet, most of us in this world, we end up letting life dictate our circumstances. Like we give excuses, like we're not successful because of this or that. But like from your life and like your example, it's shown that you can if you have like the right guidance, or if you have like the right will, the strength of will, you can succeed no matter what. And
Absolutely.
yeah. And so Matt, one question I had was, what was the biggest lesson you learned during your entire career as like an entrepreneur and investor, and what can you tell the audience like from that?
That no is not the end. Um, um, I always joke around going back to high school, and being a man, being a liking young women. I ask girls that were way out of my league out, but I apply that in business, and a lot of times you hear no. And if you read sales trainings or anything out there that talk about the rule of 7, you got to make 7 phone calls to the same person before they really start buying in. But a lot of people, they hear no one time and they stop. No is not the beginning, and it's certainly not the end. It's just the gateway to the journey if you're willing to persevere through it. Now, not every opportunity is going to bear fruit, but every opportunity that you take on will provide a realization of what you could do better for the next time, because life is always full of circumstance. Everyone I deal with, they have a different circumstance and a different solution that they need. There's not a cookie cutter solution. And if I said everything was the same, then I could take no and just call one client, everything like there, but it's not that way. So I look at no being the journey of, all right, well, I'm going to go down this path until someone just says, hey, back off, you're, a little too overbearing, but I'm going to pursue down that path to figure out what is why am I missing in this customer's niche that is a shortcoming for me, and why I'm not able, fulfill their needs, or why they're not wanting to do business with me. Because not everyone's going to be a client of mine, but everyone's going to be inherently a teacher, unwillingly or unknowingly could be a teacher for me in how I can get better at each circumstance. But it's hard. I'm a man that my love language is words of affirmation. So I love hearing people praise me, my family, friends. But in sales and being others focused and having a product or goods that you're promoting, a lot of times you hear no, and that completely goes against being words of affirmation, because that's saying no. And a lot of people may internalize that, saying you're not good enough for me, you don't have the right solution for me, or so on and so forth. And I look at it and go, all right, well, they said no. Why did they say no? And one of the things I've learned long ago is, if someone says no, hey, I completely respect your opinion. Can you tell me what I may have missed in this opportunity to, earn your business? And when asking that question, you may earn the respect, not for that deal, but you may earn the respect where they might give you a referral and say, hey, you're not right for me, but here's someone that can help you because we respect what you're doing and the approach that you have with it. Because people want to go with people that work with people that are motivated and constantly moving forward and not getting stuck in the mud.
Matt, it's awesome that you're mentioning. So one of the things that I want to ask you about, like the way you go about no, right? Like a lot of people when they hear the word no, they feel rejected, and then their ego gets hurt, right?
Mhm.
And like we know, everybody has like an ego, whether some of it's just a spectrum, right? Some are
Mhm.
more humble than others, but when they hear the word no, then their ego gets hurt. They feel like it's their self-esteem is wounded. So in your case, how do you go about managing that if you hear multiple no's in one go or something like that?
Well, if I hear multiple no's in one go, luckily I've got a group of people that I can call upon and say, hey, this is what's going on. And they might help provide insights. I have a hard time with sometimes self-reflecting on why things happen, but luckily I have I think that core nucleus of people that can help, spotlight and do it in a way that's not shaming or putting someone down, but saying, hey, did you look at it this way? There was a gentleman I worked with many years ago, and he talked about wanting to start his own company called Recalibrate. And he may have, I haven't looked it up, but he said, if you can just move something by 0.1 degree, the trajectory, not in a week, but a year or 10 years, has a monumental change for people. And I think that for me has resonated for all those years in how I approach things, because if I can just tweak what I'm doing by just, 0.1 degree or 1 degree, it's going to allow me to get better. I have it written in my notebook, very first page. It says, I can only get better by 0.01% every single day. So if you look at that over the course of a year, I'm only going to get 3.65% better. That's not a lot, but over a course of a year or 10 years or whatever that may
Compound
be.
compound interest, yeah.
Yeah, it's a
Compounding
compounding
effect.
interest. Yeah.
Like a compounding effect. Like I read this book, I think it was by Darren Hardy or something, The Compounding Effect, and
Mm-hmm.
it just revolutionized the way I just thought about things. But when you
Yeah.
combine that with your mindset of going about when people say no, it's just you become an unstoppable force,
Yeah.
right? Because you just
Mm-hmm.
keep going and going, and then you have a way of dealing with rejection. Like you're going to succeed in whatever you do. So I really
Yeah.
admire that. And that's why I was asking about how do you handle the rejection to like self-esteem and all of that stuff. And for most people, that would be the case.
Yeah. But I would, the people that are going to listen to this, um, I would always say, make sure you have a core nucleus, whether it be family or friends that you can go to and trusted and advisors and, bounce ideas off them and let them know your successes and your wins. And I've said it in the past, and I can't remember who inspired this in me, but they said do an autopsy of your successes as well as your failures. Most people look at their failures, and not really, look at why they succeeded. But I'm constantly looking at both of those. But I guarantee I have more failures than I do successes. But my successes, they're the ones that get notarized because I've had the privilege of working with some of the amazing companies like you alluded to earlier, like Disney and Home Depot and BMW and Porsche. I mean, those are amazing companies. And I didn't get to work with them because I took the first no.
No, totally, Matt. So, Matt, my question to you now is what is the biggest challenge you had during your entire career and how did you overcome it?
I think the biggest challenge I had was actually having enough faith and belief in myself that I could do this, that I could be an entrepreneur. I always had the entrepreneurial mindset and I was always doing the things. But when you actually go to the state and register and create, get your insurance and all the other things, um, it puts pressure on you. And then when you start working with other people as either business partners or, investors, um, I can understand my failures, but when I start partnering with other people, that there's a lot more pressure on me. And that was one of those fears I had to overcome. And in doing that, it has allowed me to become a better version of myself and really move forward. Now, it's one of those things that I still work on because there's always self-doubt in everything that we do, but I'm living a dream of having my own company. Now, are we making millions of dollars a year? Absolutely not. But are we growing? Are we succeeding? Are we meeting our customers where they're at and servicing their needs? Absolutely. And those are milestones of success that I love to have, that I can keep moving forward with. And if I wouldn't have taken that step, I wouldn't be here where I'm at today having this conversation with you.
So Matt, it's really interesting that you talk about self-belief and confidence in yourself, because that's a thing that most people would struggle with if they wanted to become an entrepreneur. Like knowing your self-worth, knowing who you are, and having confidence in yourself. What advice would you give somebody that's suffering from, like, let's say, low self-esteem, and like negative self-doubt and all of that, and they want to start a business?
Well, for me, I have my faith system. So, in my faith system, I had to, lean into that. So whether you're, whatever your faith system is or belief system may be, find something that you can create an anchor point in that helps build confidence, that is stories of overcoming, of people persevering, but not being the most well-spoken or the most beautiful or the strongest, but people that made an impact for millions of people. We celebrate our athletes because of their talent. But if we look at, some of the greatest people in the world, they were not athletes. They were great speakers. They weren't the most physically fit. They were, they helped to motivate and inspire other people. And whether it be a faith system or someone that inspires you, dive into why they inspire you, because there's a core connection of why they're inspiring you. And you need to find that spark within yourself to find that inspiration and belief in yourself.
No, I agree. I think like in having role models and people that inspire you, like whether in TV or like in books and all of that, like it can make a major difference, because ultimately, life is all about like understanding yourself and having the confidence to go about doing whatever you want to, like, have success. Because if we do not have belief in ourselves, Matt, like we're never going to get what we want,
Mm-hmm.
because it's only when having belief in ourselves can we go far forward in life and push through.
Yeah.
So I agree with you on that one. So Matt, what was what was like a moment in your career that you could pinpoint to that was like a turning point that made you successful in your industry?
I think it was I worked for a short period of time, a New York Times best-selling author, motivational speaker, written countless books. His name's John Maxwell. I got to work for his organization. And it's not me, name dropping, but I watched a man inspire people, but was always looking to get better. Some people might say he's at the top of his game. And that would have been, 20 years ago. But he's always challenging himself to get better. He's always looking to be what one of his favorite books of mine is 360-degree leader. It's when you're the leader and you're surrounded by all those people around you. And for me, it's not leading from the front or leading from the back with fear, but it's leading from the middle and inspiring that growth that I mentioned earlier. Is how do you inspire people? Because that's a legacy that we all want to leave. But when I saw him and how he treated people, that is something that resonated with me, not only with my faith system, but he also had the same faith system. And it helped me say, I can do things in my own right. I just need to find what my passions are and figure out how I can lean into those most effectively. One of my passions is, I love talking with people. I love brainstorming with people. I may not always be the subject matter expert, but because of my network, I probably know a subject matter expert and can help, bring forth solutions that can be game changing. I'm proficient in a lot of things, but there are things that I will raise my hand because it's never to lead someone astray, but it's helped to provide them a path, a light to the path that they're on.
So, no, it's true. Like if you brainstorm and if you have like if you go about it and then you have like a group and then you have having like a mastermind session, it definitely plays a big role in getting answers and getting solutions.
Yeah.
I know I've done that myself, and like it just brings out the creative process in everybody.
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned Darren Hardy earlier in his book. And there, John Maxwell, we look at Grant Cardone, Tony Robbins, all these great speakers and so on and so forth. But I think with each and every one of those, it's the inspiration of how they get to people. But they create a community. And that community is where people can bounce ideas off, like you were just alluding to. And when you're able to bounce ideas off, you may not have thought of it, but when you hear someone else say it, you're like, that could help my customer base or who I'm trying to serve. And
It's basically like a synergy, right? Like where you're
yeah,
bouncing it off, and then the combined. There's something about like being in sync and being having this a similar energy, and then it just creates a, well, as you can say, a compounding effect of
yeah.
sorts.
And one of the things I tell people, I was like, I've been very fortunate to sit at some tables maybe I didn't deserve to be at, but I had the invitation to be at a table, which gave me the opportunity to be a part of the conversation, which had led me to do things that I never thought possible. But you have to be willing to put yourself out there to say, hey, here's where I'm good, here's where I'm bad, but be authentic. And when you can be authentic with what you can do, people are going to respect that and want to do more with you because they're going to lean into you. Because if they see a sponge, most people want to pour out their knowledge into other people. And luckily, I've just had the privilege of being around other people that want to pour into me. And I've taken a lot of that and it's just gone right off my shoulder. I haven't taken any of those lessons because it didn't apply for what I needed, but there might have been one or two things, again, small percentage that I can apply in my daily life to help me become a more authentic version of myself, because that's a constant evolution. Where I was 20 years ago to where I am now is a night and day difference. And I cannot wait to see where, I'm going to be in the next 5, 10, or 20 years.
So, Matt, if you had to go back in time, like let's say you could do time travel, right? And then you met the 12-year-old version of you, right? And then
Mhm.
you had one thing to tell the 12-year-old version of you, like, hey, look, this is what you got to do to be successful in business. Like, what would that be?
Oh, that's a good one. I would say for me, I would tell myself to be, it's hard for me to say, but even be more outgoing. Because there are a lot of times where I might have said no because I was tired or I wanted to go party with my friends and I didn't put myself in an area to learn.
Understandable
Yeah.
reasons.
But
Understandable
yeah,
reasons.
absolutely. I mean, we have to go through this evolution of life. But for me, I think it's to um, try to be a better listener um, when around those that have a generation upon you, your father, your grandfather, your aunt, your uncles, because there's so much knowledge that they're passing and wisdom that I look at now and I go, oh, what was that lesson? And I have to go and, luckily I still have my parents around. I can go talk to them. They're like, and they might remind me of it. But if I could have, heard it more directly from other people that have unfortunately left this earth, what would that impact be today if I were to, really internalize what these people were trying to pour into me? Because that's whether it's being whether it be a principal or a teacher, there's always been someone trying to pour into me and get the best out of me. And I've been resistant. And I would tell myself, don't be so resistant to those that are trying to, elevate you. And I think
Matt,
that's where changes happens.
Matt, I can now see why you're successful in what you do because you have the perfect concoction of things that bring together to bring you success, right? First, you have the ability to push forward and take a lot of actions that are like relatively high risk compared to what most people would do. You have the ability to take the no's, take the hits, take the setbacks, and keep pushing forward. And then then you're into networking and connections and learning from other people. Like that's like a relatively powerful combination.
Mhm.
The ability to push forward and then also gain knowledge from others. Like, yeah, that is exactly what people need to do to like attain success, you know? So I admire you for that.
Well, I appreciate it.
Yeah. So Matt, you know that on another note, you know that America is the land of the free and place where dreams are made. Do you agree or disagree with that?
Ooh. Um, I agree. Um, but I also believe it's becoming a bigger challenge because there are so many people out there that believe that they should be given things without earning them. And I alluded to athletes earlier, and and there are people that I look up to it as athletes. But when you get money and you haven't performed yet, you're getting money for your potential. That's great. You know, people that pay me a salary, they're giving me money to do a job. But if I don't do that job to these standards, there are repercussions. But when other things are out there, and with social media, there's so many people that just get money without having to truly earn it. And I think it's creating a weaker version of society, which is maybe taking away that opportunities that we're so accustomed to, land of the free, home of the brave, and the American dream. Because we are not just a country of Americans, we're a country of people from all over the world that came to seek certain opportunities, and some of them work very hard, and those people are very inspirational, and we probably look up to most of them. The ones that we don't look up to are the ones that were just given something. We joke around in certain circles about kids that were trust fund babies or whatnot. They were just given money and they never had to work for it. And I believe there has to be a fine balance between book smart and street smart, because if you cannot apply what you know, you're not really helping anyone out. And that's where application really becomes relevant within the American dream.
Well, Matt, I mean, in my experience, like when I came to America, it was always like a land of opportunity provided you work hard and you
Mhm.
like not just work hard, but you work smart as well. You
Mhm.
work smart and you apply the knowledge you gain and then work hard and attain success. But yeah, I do see your perspective on like you have to work hard and you have to earn what your keep and all of that, you know,
Yeah.
because that's what made the nation to what it is. So,
Yeah. And that's the thing we have to, instill into the next generation is you work hard. I mean, yes, there might be skills that you're not having to work hard, because my father would say he's proud of me because he always told me work smarter, not harder. So my dad, would work 12, 14 hours a day out in the sun, wiring buildings and doing stuff with his hands. I've really never had that, because I had smarts and I was able to work smarter, but still stay in the same arena. Um, so we had to, take the smarts that we have with the lessons and be able to, apply that. And the fundamental of applications to get a job done is what I think makes the dream happen. And when we're all bringing practical applications, it's going to make that American dream more relevant and you know something that more people want to aspire to.
so Matt, speaking of the American dream, so most Americans are finding it harder and harder by on every year, right, to achieve their version of the American dream, and they're
Mhm.
finding it a challenge to like make it, right? What do you think? What do you think is the biggest challenge in your opinion to people attaining the American dream, and how they should overcome that?
Well, I can only speak to myself, and I'm sure it will resonate with other people. But the American dream for me was really realized when I stopped looking at other people and started looking in the mirror. Um, you know, what makes me happy does not make other people happy. And yes, we have devices that, constantly feed us information. And there are certain things that we aspire to. Like I'm very happy. I can say I've checked off a lot of things on my bucket list that probably 95% of the world will never get a chance to do, but I've done some of those things. But that was what, there's a law out there called the principle of perseverance. When you're going through hard things, what's something that motivates you to push through and find that success, and how do you reward yourself? And that for me is, doing some of the things on my bucket list. But I would say we have to always start looking internally at what makes us happy, because I'm happily married. I've got 2 young boys. My needs are higher than a single male or single female, or a couple that's not looking to have kids. My needs and wants are a lot different. We have to look at what our own personal goals are, not what someone else's goals are for us, because those goals may be not in a line, and we have to be in a line with ourselves to really move forward, to be self-serving for other people.
Man, I love it. Like what you're saying, it definitely resonates with me. But you talked about happiness, right? So what is your version of like the American identity is about the pursuit of happiness. So how would you advise other Americans to go about pursuing happiness from your perspective?
Find what inspires you. If you're into rock climbing, or for me, I joke around. I say, American happiness is for me spending the week, spending time with my family, and being able to spend time on the golf course with friends, and have a scotch and a cigar. And I'm a pretty simple guy. I don't need the big fancy car. I don't need the big fancy house. But those are little things. Quality time, because time is something I cannot buy. If I had hundreds of millions of dollars, you cannot buy time, but I can create moments, and those moments are created with my wife, my kids, and then also spending time out, on the golf course with my friends, you giving each other the jab, or having a scotch or a cigar, things that just allow me to relax, let my hair down. Obviously, you can see I've got a lot of hair here, but those are things that create happiness for me. But in doing that, that's me being the authentic version of myself, which, people resonate with and want to spend time with me. But luckily I attract those people that also want to spend time with their family. So it's a happy balance.
That is awesome, Matt. Like, yeah, I think that is pretty effective. Like, you just do things that make you happy, like go for
Mhm.
your passions and all of that stuff. A lot of
Yeah.
people, they rely on other people to dictate what is happiness, but you should
Mhm.
do what makes you happy. So,
Yeah. Yeah. We have to, you have to do what makes you happy. And as I sit here and I talk to you, and I think about the things that I've been able to do, some of the stuff, and like I alluded to earlier, the bucket list I did by myself, which, yeah, I can say I checked it off. But if I look at the memory, there's a memory I created by myself. I didn't get to share it with someone. And that is, if I'm going to say there's a regret, I regret not having someone that I cared about, or someone to bring to say, oh, remember when? Um, and that was a moment that's lost, because, I may not be able to recreate that again. So that is for me why I look at that is, time, with family and friends. That's what brings happiness. People that truly care about you. Um, that will tell you good and bad, but that's, what you need in life. And that for me is my happiness.
Matt, I think they did a study of like people that were on their deathbeds, like of old age, and they asked them, "Do you have any regrets? Like, is there something you regret that you wish you could have done?" And I think a lot of them said that instead of focusing on their career or this or that, they could have spent more time with their family and friends. Because
Yeah.
ultimately, like when you're at the end of your life, those experiences are the ones that truly end up mattering, instead of
Mhm.
like the money, the cars, the status and all of that stuff. Like those are the things that gave the most amount of joy. But that's the
Yeah.
study that they did. So I
Yeah.
find this pretty interesting that you're saying that as well.
Yeah. And at this time that when we're doing this recording, it's what's going on in the college football world is, I'm an Atlanta native, Deion Sanders, now head coach of the Colorado University. And I saw something earlier today. I said, he's living his dream. He's living his bucket list because he achieved at the highest level in two different sports. He's a Hall of Famer. Now he's a collegiate coach at a major university, and he has two of his kids playing on his team and achieving at a high level. They're not just there as the token players that, hey, we're the Suns kids. They are performing as all-stars. And, I would love to have something in my life that I can be the coach for my kids and say, and get to go down that journey of maybe entrepreneurship and and cheer them on, motivate them. That is, that's inspiring. Now, I'm sure he's got problems in his life. There's some of it's been, publicized, with his health and, his leg. But if you look at that man, he is so filled with joy because he's always got his mom with him. He's always got his kids with him. And that's something that he's seen at the highlight of his life, that there were things that in his story that were deep and dark, but he's found a peace and he's like, it's the time with those that mean the most to me. And I think if we can boil that down to our own little life and, what makes us happy, what we can do to survive, or not survive, but to thrive in our own world, to, create generational wealth, whatever that may look like for each individual person or each individual family. That is what I think the American dream is. But, the time is, we're not going to get any more of it.
No, I couldn't agree more, Matt. So Matt, on a different note, can you tell me and the audience a little bit more about the premise of how you founded ProCents and more about what ProCents is about?
Yeah. So I worked for a company for several years and loved it, absolutely loved it. And when that company decided to merge with another company, I decided to move on. But I'd made such great relationships during that time. I was like, well, how do I stay connected? Because I want to stay in the same field. What if the next company I go work for doesn't want to pay for me to be a part of these organizations? So that's why I created ProCents. And that was like, all right, well, I created ProCents. Now, how can I start creating value for people that are, supporting me at ProCents? And that was the first iteration. Then we did transactional base, and then now we're into a new phase. So we're on 3 iterations in less than 4.5 years. But it's one of those things that I use ProCents to allow me to stay connected to those that I've built relationships with, because relationships within any industry are something that are invaluable. And I think a lot of people, they lose sight of that. But if they can have an organization where they can go to and say, hey, we're not going to get sold to, but we're going to get enriched by the people who are there and the why they're there, as opposed to what they are selling. That's something that people want to gravitate to. And that's something I want to gravitate to. And that's why I created the organization, is to stay a part of other organizations and to still have these other organizations recognize not only myself, but also recognize ProCents in the iterations it's had, be supportive of me. And some of these organizations are celebrating this year their 70th anniversary, or some of them are celebrating 40 years in business, and they're doing, hundreds of millions of dollars. They're impacting lots of people. But for me to say, for them to recognize me and accept my little creation with the help of others, is awe-inspiring, because these are people that I aspire to be in some form or fashion. And because I see the good in them, how they truly believe in the art of the handshake and not the art of the contract. Because when a handshake's done, it's looking at someone in the eyes and saying, I've got you, trust me. Contract says, I got you, but if you mess up, I'm going to sue you. So there's a lack of trust. But, with this here, it's some of those things that's just inspiring. So ProCents is that organization that helps build bridges between trades, lighting, electrical, signs, HVAC, plumbing, solar, EV, and so many other things that brings something from the foundation up, something that we may reside in, something that we do business in, or something that produces a product for us in our everyday life. So this is the backbone of America, and I'm hoping that I can be a small part in bringing people together to really create new opportunities and better relationships.
That is awesome, Matt. I would definitely want my audience to take a better look at ProCents because what you said is amazing. You know,
Yeah.
so Matt, is there any other projects that you're doing right now that you'd want the audience to get a glimpse into?
Well, we are launching our first trade show. So, and in 2024, we'll be going into our second one, but we can't have our second until we have our first. So, keep an eye out on how our first one's going to go, how it went. If you got any feedback, please let me know, because I can't grow unless people let me know, where we can get better. And the feedback is always welcome, good, bad, or indifferent. But if you've got any ideas or suggestions as we move into 2024, because we're looking at a September, October date, please let me know. And if you want to be a part of it, please let me know, because we would love to enrich this into a bigger arena that maybe I'm just not seeing at this time.
That's awesome, Matt. So Matt, how can our audience get to know more, like connect with you and get to know more about you and your work?
Yeah. So the best way to, find out more about me is Matt Russell Media. That's MATTRUSSELL Media, MEDIA.com. You can read more about my bio and so on and so forth. And at the bottom of that, you can, there's a calendar link so you can connect with me, book time. You can also email me at matt@procents.com. And I'd love to brainstorm with you.
That is awesome, Matt. Matt, I am so grateful that you took the time to do this interview with me and then share your wisdom and your knowledge. And definitely am looking forward to having you on the show at a later time.
Well, man, that would be a great honor. And I am deeply honored that you would give me this opportunity, this platform for your audience to share my story. And hopefully it will bring inspiration to more extraordinary Americans.
Thank you, Matt. And I want to conclude this interview by letting my fellow extraordinary Americans know that, hey, look, there's an extraordinary within each and every one of us. It's our duty to awaken it and unleash it. Until next time, bye for now.
Hey there, everyone. Thank you for watching Extraordinary America. If you like what you see, please do subscribe to our podcast and share it with others. Remember that the best investment that you can make in your lifetime is in your own financial education, for it is knowledge that truly sets you free. Also remember that your purchasing power is being diluted through inflation, and then the practical thing to do is to protect the loss of your purchasing power by investing in precious metals or the right cryptocurrencies. Also, never forget that you are an extraordinary American. We'll see you in the next episode. Bye for now.